Monday, March 11th, 2019 at 7 p.m. The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to all members of the public. Would you now join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are all here tonight. First up, we have the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the consent agenda as presented, approval of the agenda as submitted, approval of minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on February 11th, 2019, approval of the proposed accounts for payment, approval of budgetary receipts and expenditures for February 2019, approval of Committee of the Whole minutes for February 2019, approval of option students, approval of the resignations of Pam Henning and Mary Camacho Cook, and approval of policy, the third reading of 3580, insufficient funds.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. And before we move on, Jason wanted to comment on the expenditures.
Just in a brief summation of the treasurer's report, fairly good news again this month. Bills were $457,543. Payroll, $1,681,146 and some change. That brings us to total expenses of $2,138,690. The month of expenditures itself was $1,965,602. The month of revenue, $1,888,046. So you can see that it's important for us to track that on a month-to-month basis because we know that our revenue didn't necessarily keep up with our expenditures, and as we continue to operate in the red every month, we have to continue to look at ways to operate more efficiently, so we continue to do that. We also know that hopefully in May, we will see that needed booster shot of taxes come in that will help us get to that point of operating in the black, but that's where we are right now. So nothing largely concerning at this point, just that we continue to monitor that on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody have any questions for Jason on that? All right, we have a motion by Doris, second by Eric. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, that is approved, 6-7, nothing. All right, next up we have the outstanding recognition, Employee of the Month. Check.
Good evening. I am going to also ask Ms. Corder Hoekstra to come on up too. She's going to help me present this award. Teresa Vanover, Special Education Secretary at the District Office, is the March Employee of the Month. So Teresa's coming forward. Teresa is the unsung hero of the SPED department. She came into a job with a very tough spot to fill. Not only did she step into a huge learning curve, but she has done so with no complaints that I can hear. Teresa is always available to SPED staff and never makes me feel bad for asking questions I should certainly know the answer to by now. She responds promptly to emails and phone calls and is always willing to help out. I can't imagine how many phone calls she gets per day for the same IEP questions. That leads me to my second point. IEPs, yikes. I cannot imagine how many IEPs roll across Teresa's desk every week. Although she sees hundreds of IEPs a year, she is still always willing to help out with each IEP paperwork. She never sounds upset or annoyed when we call for the 5th time in a week. I know that I can ask Teresa to help me with anything and she'll do it. She is a great member of the SPED department, one that the department couldn't function without. Back to you.
And I just wanted to say my appreciation for Teresa. She came into a position that was filled by a person that had been here for many, many years, and it was a huge learning curve, but she has been extremely pleasant and just like Jackie said, always willing to help, and I don't think we could have found a better fit for our office, so we really do appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, next up, Grand Lodge Nebraska Masons Award. Scott Knispel is our speaker.
I don't think,
Well,
I don't think Scott's here, so I will just go ahead and tell you a little bit about this award and then have some people come forward. This fall, we renovated or reintroduced the CHIP program from the Grand Lodge of Nebraska Masons. They helped organize that, and that's a student identification program in which we fingerprint students, take dental records of students, put all that information together, so in the event that any one of our students comes up missing height, weight, all that information, then they can, it more readily, that all that information is together more readily available for the authorities that need to conduct an investigation to locate the child, is all in one place. So the Beatrice Masonic Lodge nominated us on a state level, our Beatrice Middle School, for an award to be presented on behalf of their help in reinstituting the CHIP program this year, and they won. So our Beatrice Middle School is awarded an award from the Grand Masons Lodge at the state of Nebraska level for helping with that. And they wanted to recognize Mr. Jarash, Mrs. Henning, Annette Barnard, Linda Buss, and Mark McAllister for their help in doing that. So if you folks would come forward, I would gladly thank you for I'm not sure why Scott's not here. Thank you for helping in the institution of the CHIP program. Yeah. And I know he probably has certificates or something.
All right. Good work, guys.
all right, thank you, Jason. Next up, the Jack Snyder Young Band Director Award. Andrew Junk, yes, he is here.
Good evening. It's been my pleasure to work with Mr. Darren Lojo now for 4 years. And as part of the Nebraska State Bandmasters Association, we have our spring conference clinic and then awards banquets. And myself, along with a couple of colleagues, parents, current students, and former students, as well as Mr. Jarash, nominated Mr. Lojo for that. I do want to point out, in that process, when I was seeking out letters, I didn't have a single person say, I can't write a letter for him. So that was really nice. They all agreed to do that on his behalf. And he was one of 7 band directors from the state this year in their 3rd to 7th year of teaching to receive this award. So it's a pretty good honor. You look at the list of names, and a lot of those people are from years past now, the who's kind of thing in Nebraska band directors. So great honor for Mr. Lojo. So if he'd come on up and be recognized.
Next up, we have the Prudential Spirit of Community Award, Mr. Jansen.
This young lady here represents what Orangeman Pride means. We talk all the time at our elementary level about Orangeman Pride and treating others as you would want to be treated, treating people with respect, going out of your way to help others. And Georgia Bullard has definitely done that. And because of her success at doing it, she is getting a lot of state recognition. She's getting a ton of public recognition for everything that she has done. She's put in numerous hours helping at the Good Samaritan home, amongst other places. And so she won a scholarship for herself and a all-paid vacation for her and her family out to Washington, D.C. in May. And she gets to go and meet other kids just like her that are able to help out their communities. The awesome thing about this is she is one of 2, correct, in the state of Nebraska, and by far the youngest one going, as I saw the other candidates were 16, 17, 15, and so she outbeat all of them because of the contribution she has done for Beatrice. Another awesome part is when she's out in DC, she will be able to be put into a kind of a competition, I guess you could say, to where she has the potential to win another scholarship for herself, but also for a nonprofit here in Beatrice that she would be able to name. So we want to wish her the best of luck there. But again, just a true measure of what Orangeman Pride means here in Beatrice. And we have great kids in our community, and Georgia is just one of them that is being recognized. And I wanted to make sure that you knew who she was. And also, we had the privilege of Senator Dorn came out to Stoddard Elementary on Friday, this last Friday, and wanted to meet her. I got an email from him. I said, absolutely, you're more than welcome. And he went and took time out of his day, not just to meet Georgia, but also went to every classroom in our 3rd and 4th and 5th grade building, which I thought was really awesome for him to take the time out of his day to do so. But I know Georgia is probably getting tired of getting all this recognition because she is one of those kids who is the model student in the classroom, where you raise your hand, you do what you're told, you go above and beyond expectations, and she does not like publicity. So she is learning how to deal with all the fame, I guess you could say right now. And if you read her in the paper, I went over the intercom, like I always do, and announced it to the whole school. And you know, it's a neat honor. On Monday the 18th, the State Department of Lincoln will actually be coming down to give her her medallion at our Orangeman Pride ceremony. So that's going to be a neat honor for her too. And then I told her I promise I'll leave her alone for the most part. But again, just very proud of Georgia and everything she's done. And also, you know, her sister does the exact same thing. She's a little bit younger. She's a 1st grader. And I think it's also a contribute to her parents and the willingness and the drive that they have, you know, raised her to be. And she'd be the first person to let you know that she would help anybody no matter what. And we love that about her, and just like our other kids. But like I said, an amazing Orangeman Pride celebrity, I guess, on our hands is what I call it right now. So congratulations, Georgia.
Okay, next up, we have Special Education Para of the Year. Mrs. Cordray Hoekstra is going to.
It's kind of a fun night. I have Lillian and Michelle, you want to come up here also? Every year we take nominations for Special Education Para of the Year, and this year Lillian Zardik, she was a para at the middle school in the alternate curriculum program, Mrs. Carlin's room, she received multiple nominations. So, multiple, yes. So I'm just going to read just a little summary of the nominations, why they were nominated. Lillian is the best paraeducator a teacher could ask for. She goes above and beyond her scope of duties. She thinks fast on her feet. She's very patient. She is always willing to step forward and assist. She often invests her personal time in researching ideas and activities that can be adapted to the special needs of the students she serves. Students not only enjoy you and love you, they respect you. That you've been a solid foundation for students and staff in the middle school alternate curriculum program for the last several years, and Beatrice Public Schools is very fortunate to have staff member like you. So, we give you this plaque. So thank you very much. All very well deserved.
Dad, can we get a picture of Lillian
Oh, yeah.
for the newsletter? No, you too.
Hey, John. While we're on recognition, I think one thing that we maybe skipped over when looking at the resignations of Mrs. Henning and Mrs. Cook, I would just like to recognize the number of years of service that both of those educators, teachers, assistant principals have given to Beatrice Public Schools. I don't know the number, but I know Mrs. Cook has been with us for a very long time, and same thing with Mrs. Henning. And I've had, as a parent, my kids have been in both their classes and both appreciate, and they're wonderful teachers. So I just want to make sure they're recognized.
Thank you.
Mrs. Cook is 40 years, and Mrs. Henning
27 here.
27.
That is incredible. Thank you very much, Ariel.
Appreciate that. Hard experience to replace.
on to the information section. First up, Hannah Rennie with the student update.
Alrighty, so I want to say a special congratulations to the state swimming qualifiers. They did really well. And then we had National Honor Society, the new inductees, last week. So all of they're the really good kids. Their community service is exceptional. They're really good academic students as well. So that's a great honor for them. Our winter sports ended and now our spring sports are starting again. And so seniors are making their final decisions as graduation is coming upon us soon. So final college choices and major choices are being made. There are 60 days until graduation, in case you wondered. Our show choir season ended, so there's a lot of kids participating in show choir and fine arts at Beatrice. So the Saturday was our last competition in Sloan, Iowa. So that was the end of show choir. We're getting ready for prom. Woohoo! And I want to congratulate Xander Wells. Today was district speech, and he made it to state in humorous. And then one more thing, so middle school started Hope Squad. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. Last year, and we have brought that to the high school now. So it's student nominated. So they asked, everyone had to fill out the form, and it was who are 3 people in the high school that you would go to and talk to if you had an issue with like a problem that you wanted to just talk over. So students listed 3 names, and the top names that were nominated were put onto Hope Squad, which is the suicide prevention team in the high school. So they're going to train us on QPR, which is question, persuade, refer, and it's all in the goal to prevent suicide and promote mental awareness. So yeah, that's what I have.
Well, Hannah wasn't going to say anything, but I went on Saturday to Sloan, Iowa, and the kids, well, of course Hannah was fantastic, but the kids did wonderful. It was the best show that they've done all year, and the competition there is extremely high. In fact, one of the groups that was there is the only show choir to win a Grammy. So they didn't win it this show, but the competition was intense, and they did fantastic. So anyway, congratulations on a good job on Saturday.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the board reports. Mrs. Martin.
The Board of Education Committee of the whole meeting was held on Thursday, February 28th, and we heard several policy updates, including an explanation of the grievance procedure for classified staff and then for certified staff, and also we went over some procedures if someone wants to file a grievance. Mr. Alexander also talked about reduction in force and said no changes have been made since 1985, so he had some suggestions for improvements there. We also talked about some land easements, which I think we'll talk about later in the meeting, that the Nebraska Department of Education sent the district 2 appraisal review reports on some of the land that is owned by the district near the high school. And he said they needed additional land to be able to finish the trail that would connect to Hannibal Park. He also gave us a master facility plan update, a review, and he also used a slideshow for a budget update on how the budget is tracked, and he included historical data and trends. That ends my report.
Thank you, Doris. Did anybody have any questions or comments on the committee of the whole? All right. It is now time for public forum. Anyone who has any comments related to the agenda items, this is the time to speak.
That'd be you guys.
Yeah, we'll let, Scott,
Scott.
they're here, so we will let them step in at this time and give the awards that they.
I'm trying to think of an excuse. Other than I thought it was 7:30. I didn't check, I apologize.
That's okay.
On behalf of the Beatrice Lodge, number 26, Masonic Lodge here in Beatrice, and thank you to Mr. Alexander, Terry Stake and I are here, I'm Scott Knispel, to present the Grand Lodge Award to the Beatrice Middle School for the work they did with the CHIP program last fall. CHIP is a child identification program that the Grand Lodge puts on. I need to read all these things that we do or I'll miss them. We do a video interview of the child. We did 6th grade last year. About 70 students participated. We do fingerprints, tooth prints, a DNA cheek swab, a still photograph, and a scent pad, which is fairly new, that's used in case a child is lost. They can use the dogs to try to track them down. It's free of charge to each student. Like I said, we did about 70 last year. We're going to do the 6th grade again in the fall, and also the 2nd grade this year. We're going to try to get it going so we do 1 grade a year and don't have to try to catch up, something we had done for years and for whatever reason it stopped. In particular, the people we wanted to recognize are Mr. Jarash, Mrs. Henning, Mrs. Barnard, Mrs. Buss, and Mr. McAllister. And I think some of them are here anyway, so if they'd come forward, we really do appreciate the effort they put in. We absolutely could not have done it if they hadn't done the legwork to get everything lined up. And I think Mr. Alexander was down that day to see how things flowed, and it was quite interesting. So I wanted to thank you for that, and thank you to all of you.
And thank you
Appreciate
guys,
your
you
help.
did a wonderful job.
Oh, you bet. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say, when they came to me and said, can we do this? I said, sure, and then Annette did all the work lining up how to get kids down to the fitness room. Yeah. And of course, Mark and his crew set everything up, so they really should be getting this award. I just said, yeah, we'll do it. I'm gonna take care of it.
Years ago when we did this, John wasn't there and Mrs. Henning was a teacher there. And I don't know that were you with the district, but you weren't at the middle school?
No.
But Mrs. Barnard and I were the only two that had really done it before. And so she remembered a lot more than I did, I think.
It worked really smooth. I mean, we had a lot of kids came down from the high school to help. And there was a lot of workers there, and it just flowed. At first I thought, oh man, what are we getting ourselves into? But it was like clockwork, so.
And I appreciated everyone that helped, because it was below zero in that room. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
Well,
And sorry again for being late.
No, that's not a problem, and we appreciate you guys nominating us for the award, because that's nice to have that recognition on behalf of people who work so hard to do it, but also thank you for taking the time to do it, because as we know, with any lost child, every second counts, and every bit of information counts, and so we appreciate you giving of yourselves and time to do that as well.
No problem. Thank you.
Now, my nephew did this like 15 years ago, and his teeth are still in my freezer. Can I take those out?
His teeth are the imprint.
Well, they imprint, I guess.
That's strictly up to you, John.
Still my retainer.
Okay, was there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one, we'll move on to discussion portion. First up, we have 7.1. It's a second reading of policy 3410, fundraising. Mr. Alexander.
Nothing really to add to this, just the change that we've talked about a couple different times, that we recognize our needs here in Beatrice as a priority, and then as individual request is made on behalf of other organizations, we take those into account on a one-to-one basis and see where we're at. So not a big change on 3410 at this point. I think it's ready to move on.
Okay, any comments or questions? Second reading of 4235 grievance procedure for classified personnel.
If it's okay with you, I think I'll group these together.
Good with me.
4235, 4625, AR 4625, and AR 4625.1. This is just the work that we spent a lot of time on this fall through the BEA and the negotiations team for the board, talking about the grievance process that hasn't been updated in a long time, and trying to make that more of a streamlined process and improve the opportunity to make it better to separate student issues from adult issues. And I think we've accomplished that as far as I know. As long as there's no other discussion, next month we'll move ahead with bringing that to you in the form of clean copy, and ready to move it forward with policy and administrative regulations. So.
Okay, any comments or questions on that? Second reading of policy 9115, officers.
Again, just reflective of the change that we talked about at the board reorganization in January, and making sure that that is up to what we reorganized to make happen, making Dr. Nielsen the secretary of the Board of Education and myself the treasurer, so it reflects our duties as assigned.
Anyone? All right, now the first reading of policy 4630, reduction in force.
Yeah, we talked about this at the committee of the whole meeting. Basically, this policy hasn't been updated in quite a while. The reduction in force, it's a situation where it's never pleasant. We don't want to have to use it if we don't have to use it. But in the event we do not want it tied to evaluations of teaching staff, because it doesn't necessarily reflect whether a job well done or a job not well done is the issue. It's generally a job of, or it's a parameter of budget issue that brings about a reduction in force. And so, and where it makes the most sense in accordance to numbers, it makes the most sense in accordance to what other extra duties a staff member may be able to present or bring to the table in terms of what their job assignment is. So the paragraph that's in there about evaluation and making the recommendation that it be removed, so the policy doesn't hinge on what evaluations say in reference to that person's personnel. A teacher that is reduced in force or is at the opposite end of a RIF is a teacher who is dismissed with honor, and I think we want to keep it that way with letter and so forth, and not have evaluation tied to it, so it doesn't individually sacrifice that person's individual personality characteristics or references in regard to the policy itself.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, then we're going to move on to the action portion. First up, approval of the agreement for services with the Beatrice Education Foundation. Can I have a motion for that?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the agreement for services with the Beatrice Education Foundation.
I have a motion by Janet. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Aaron. Okay, Mr. Alexander, would you like to?
Sure, just per the agreement made with the Beatrice Educational Foundation and the board prior to the renovation of the locker rooms on the east end of the building, everything was agreed upon and placed in front of everybody, but it just wasn't in a formal document. And so we just needed to formalize that agreement, get it in place, get a document in place that's traceable and trackable, and make sure that on an annual basis it's being upheld as the agreement was made.
Okay, any comments, questions? All right, can I have your votes, please? All right, that'll be 6 and with 1 abstention. Next up, we have approval of the appraisal reports and offers from the Nebraska Department of Transportation. Can I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the appraisal reports and property easement offers from the NDOT on school property.
All right, I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. All right, Mr. Alexander.
As a quick update, in the committee of the whole meeting in February, we discussed the offers that were being made to us by the Nebraska Department of Transportation as they near the completion of the Hannibal Trail project. And so part of that, where the school comes into that, is the Higgins Farm ground that was purchased and the 2 easements alongside of the highway that pass on both the north and south side of the highway next to the high school. So as you recall, I talked about their request for a temporary easement of 362.47 square feet and the offering of $100 just to, basically, they'll be relocating dirt and making room and putting it on that section so that they offer us $100, which at the end it'll all be moved back to normal. So that's just a temporary easement for that section of land. The permanent easement on the north side of the highway of 16,788.87 square feet totals $5,700 of easement on that side. So we're looking at, on the north side, $5,700 offer for that easement. On the south side of the highway, property easement number 2, on the basis of the sales average in comparison, and land being between, comparative sales being between 18 cents per square feet to 47 cents per square feet. So if you think of the low of comparable sales being 18 cents per square foot, and the high being 47 cents per square foot, on both of those offers, we're being offered 37 cents per square foot. So we're still on the upper end of that, those property sales in the last, the sales that they've compared it to. Now, the thing to keep in mind is, you ask, well, why aren't we at the 47 cents per square feet? And that's typically because property values have decreased over the last 4 or 5 years since that's all been taking place. The one we were waiting on was property easement number 3, which was along the south and west side of the farm ground that the school actually owns out there. So I don't know if we have that map up there, but it'll just help to have a visual of where we're talking about, if that's okay. Thank you, Dr. Nielsen. So you can see that that section right there where the cursor is tracing, and then just right there. All of that is the third property easement that we've been waiting on to see where it had to go be finalized through the desk review process. The field review was done earlier. And so again, with comparable land sales of that type of nature averaging between 18 cents per square foot to 47 cents per square foot, we're at the upper end of the value range, being 37 cents per square foot for a total of $27,610 of offering on that piece of property. So I guess what I'm saying to you is that I think in comparative sales, we are at the upper end of the comparative sales that have taken place of land that, quite honestly, on the north side of the highway as you see it, and on the south side that wraps up around on the north side that wraps around up behind the buildings, and the south side next to the high school, that land, really, comparatively speaking, is just access land anyway. It's just right along the highway, so it doesn't have a comparative value, so to speak, outside of what they compare it to. So I think it's a fair value. In regards to the rest of the land being at the 37 cents per square foot average, I think it's probably a fair value on the basis of what land is valued at now for agricultural land as to where that sits. That trail at where it sits is not a high value of farm ground because it's right along behind the houses and falls into where utility lines and all those types of things would be sitting. So I think, again, as we speak, I don't think we have a lot that we can negotiate, or I don't know that I have a lot that I would say we can negotiate outside of making sure that the farmer who rents this ground from us gets paid compensatorily in comparison to what that land would be worth when he farms it. If that makes sense, what he would be making off of that, he's fairly compensated for. So I think that we're in the ballpark of where we need to be. I think we're on the upper end of it. But I would sure entertain any discussion, questions, or ideas from the board as to how to proceed with this, or if you're in agreement, if you're prepared to vote on it tonight and accept the offers, then we can go ahead and go forward with that as well. I do have the packet of information here with me. There's a lot of signature places that have to be signed and a lot of that, but if you'd like to review it, table this and review it, I'm not opposed to that. I know that they say we have a month's time to review it, and I think that would hold true for all 3 easements since we just had them since the February board meeting, right after the February board meeting. I tried to call Matthew today, who is the gentleman I've been in contact with, but we weren't able to connect, so to make sure that was the case. But I would sure entertain any discussion or ideas that you might have.
Jason, did you find out from them if that would landlock us? If we were able to ever have a throughway street, it's probably what, Elk Street-ish area?
Those 2 streets.
If we were ever to build a school in that area, would we lose that ability to cross that?
What they said is that's really between the city and us, and I did talk to Tobias at the city, and they said if in the event that we would need access there, that they would be able to work with us to make something happen.
When you say compensated, you mean for any rent that he's paid to this point?
Correct. Or this project is slated to begin in August next year, so that time frame of what he has harvested, and to be completely honest with you, I don't think that what he has planted along that west side and where he would need to harvest, I don't think that will be much of an issue, but I think that's just something that we need to make sure that we have agreed upon in part of the compensation. They offer him $100 right now, and in all essence, what we're talking about in square acreage here is like 2.2, 2.3 total acres with all of that put together. So we're not talking about a huge amount.
Does he actually farm right up to that fence?
You know, on the
That would
basis
be
of-
worth, that would be worth checking, but I don't see that that should be a big deal.
And I think it's probably a good idea to give him a call and have him come in and go over this with him. I called him before because I didn't know, I knew that the property easement, there was a third one coming, but thought it went to him instead of us, so we've talked, and it shouldn't be any surprise. So that's not a problem to do.
I don't see that it's too big a deal to go ahead and vote on it.
Does it go from the edge of the property, or is it inset a bit? We don't have anything that's on the other side of it that we'd be losing extra space with it?
Mm-mm. No, as a matter of fact, it's just, as you look down the entire north to south border of it, it just lies right in between us and, well, it's on, partially on us and partially on the other side, so.
Anybody else have any comments or questions for Jason?
One of the questions from the committee of the whole meeting is, would it make sense for them to completely build the trail on us? And I did talk to, and again, Matthew at the Department of Transportation stated that that was really between the city and us, and in talking with Tobias, I did ask Tobias that question, and he just said, you know, at this point, all the amount of time and effort and energy in the studies that take place in regards to, are there any extinct species on that property? Are there any floodplains? Are there anything of that nature that we'd have to be concerned about? That's all been studied and gone through the desk review process of it, and to go back and review all that would just be an unnecessary exposure to compensation and time. So he said, he really says it's good where it's at, and appreciated the offer.
Anyone else? Does anybody have any problems with going forward? Okay, can I have your votes, please? And that passes 7-0. Next up, we have the administrator's report. Superintendent.
Just a couple of quick bits of information. And I put most of this in the superintendent's update that I sent out to you on Friday. Keep in mind that the advanced ed visit has been rescheduled for April 10th through the 12th. So I know Danielle sent out a note to all of you about the April 10th dinner at the high school from 5:30 to 7. You're invited to that. Just please let us know so we have an appropriate head count. The focus group that takes place, interview at the high school from 8:45 to 9:30. Keep that in mind. I did attach, moving on to legislative information, I did attach my letter of opposition to LB 670 on behalf of the Stance Organization, Beatrice Public Schools Scholarship Opportunity Act, so hopefully you had a chance to review that. If any of you have any questions about that or any other legislative information, please don't hesitate to send me your ideas or emails or calls, whatever, because we absolutely want to be a voice in the legislation and statute that's being created on behalf of our students in the state of Nebraska. And I like to do that stuff, call it a sickness, a disease, or whatever, but I do kind of like to do it. So if you have information or thoughts, please forward it our way. We talk a lot about our input costs and how we're no different than any other business in the state of Nebraska or anywhere else where our input costs can continue to rise. So just as A reminder, our mileage rate went up from about 54 cents, 55 cents up to 58 cents. So that's just an example of one of those small things that we really don't think a lot about, but it is an input cost just like everybody else experiences that does continue to rise. Staff reimbursement and procedure reminders were sent out. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. This was a nice night from the standpoint that we got a chance to recognize a lot of people, and whether it's our speech team that qualifies a person for state, or our seniors that go on the road and represent Beatrice in a terrific way, or Little Georgia. There's a lot of great things that happen at Beatrice Public Schools, and we've got a lot of great people that influence that on a day-to-day basis. So tonight was a nice night to recognize a lot of those people. Kind of a fun night, as we stated. So thank you to everyone for being a part of that, and keep you abreast of other information as it arises.
Okay, anybody have any comments or questions for Mr. Alexander?
Just a quick one, is LB 314 out of committee?
It is not at this point.
Well, get out of committee.
That's a great question. All of the finance bills right now are just kind of sitting there spinning in their various committees, and everybody's trying to decide what's going to stick and what's not. LB 314 and 614 are very similar, and so they're trying to see what they can attach to those two to bring them out of committee as one amendment. That's kind of the discussion that's at hand right now. And then the other school finance bills range from things from putting just a 3% cap on property value increases, property valuations, to reducing valuations from 72% value to 65% value to 60% value. And I would say, so really what's out there is kind of which one for us is going to have the best impact for public schools in the state of Nebraska with the least amount of damage. And all that's being sorted through in their committees. I don't think 314 will come out as it's written. I don't think 614 will either. But on the other side of it, I think those are probably the two bills that we would like to see come out, just because they have the least amount of damage to public schools. I don't know how we can pass a 72% to 65% reduction in property values and reduce that amount of revenue in our state without having a backup plan for it. And that's the thing that all of us like about 314 and 614, is that everybody's come together, whether it be on the education side of things, or the agricultural side of things, or the business side of things, and said we can all suffer a little bit of this pain, and everybody's worked together on it. So, long-winded answer is that it has not come out of committee yet. And so hopefully in the next couple weeks, well, March 28th is the end of the hearings, so we'll know which one comes out for sure. It was great to visit with Senator Dorn on Friday, and in our Governmental Affairs Committee, he was on recess on Friday, so when he came down, that's his recess time, and I thought it was very admirable of him to choose to come down and be part of Beatrice and our elementary students and part of us, and visit with our Governmental Affairs Committee. And he talked about how he has not picked a priority bill, so it'll be interesting to see what his priority bill will be in the next couple of weeks.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? All right, next up, we have a preschool update. Mrs. Timmerman.
I always have handouts or a video or something, you know me, so. Just some pictures, it's always good to put some names and some things when you talk about little kids. We look at the test scores and the FUD graphs and charts and stuff like that.
The riveting budget updates that everybody loves to hear.
Yeah, I'm real good with money, so we'll just keep going with that. I have some numbers in the middle of that, and these are numbers that I've shared with some of the board members in the past, but I wanted to reshare them with you. Anyone have any idea why I put 1 million on here? They're all related to early childhood. Before the age of 3, 1 million new neurological synapses are formed. That's more than the child will form the rest of their life. So it's so important that we make those positive ones. How about 18 months? You guys are nailing this quiz. Good work. 18 months is the age that the language gap starts to happen with kids. So if you have a child at 18 months and by 3 years old, that gap gets so big. At 3 years old, a child that comes from a low social economic background knows about 400 words. A child that comes from a working class home has about 550 words, and a child that comes from a college educated home has over 1,100 words. We see that a lot when kids come into preschool. We have kids that just are not talking. And now if you come, you'll have a conversation with every child in our classroom. Today, this last week has been pretty tough for one of my friends at the preschool, and he's got a good connection with Mr. Alexander, and the minute he got on the phone today, his vocabulary and his language was just amazing because he was happy and he could control himself. We've given kids the environment and the place where they can flourish and get those language and those vocabulary developments that maybe our parents just don't have time to do anymore, or maybe they're both working families, or that's just not part of their home. So giving them the time to do that. How about 90 to 100%? That's the likelihood that a child is going to have a developmental delay if they have one of the ACEs. And the ACEs are physical abuse in the home, violence, sexual abuse, substance abuse, emotional abuse, household mental illness, physical neglect, parents separated or divorced, emotional neglect, or someone in the house being in jail. Unfortunately, many of our children face those ACEs in their home. And so we need to make sure we have a positive grade out or start to their schooling so that they can overcome those ACEs and be successful in school. 3 to 1 is the chances that our children with those ACEs will have heart disease because of the inside, the depression of the families and kids just not getting to do a whole lot of stuff. And $4 to $9. For every $1 our district spends on early childhood education, we will get back $4 to $9 because of the investment that we put in kids. So I came here for the why. Why are we continuing to put money in our early childhood program? And I think these are good figures to say why we continue to do that. And to know that 90% of our children's brain are formed before they're age 5 is huge. To think 90% of the brain, and we want those to be in a quality program where all kids are successful. And I think thanks to you guys, Early Childhood Matters in Beatrice. And I know it comes at a cost, but we greatly thank you and appreciate what you do. So with that, I want to say some exciting news. Enrollment for this next school year is off to a huge success. As of this afternoon, we have 198 children enrolled in preschool already. Those are great numbers. Last year at this time, I had 182. So we're looking really, really, really good right now. You've got to think we have to save spots for those special education kids. We have to save spots for Head Start kids. We could fill our preschool as of today and have a wait list. So super excited about that. Of that, 56% of our kids are new to our school, don't have any siblings, so that's pretty cool. 88 of them are 3-year-olds, so new to the preschool, and 110 of them are 4-year-olds. So if you look at that number and look at our current kindergarten number, we're getting a lot of those students in our preschool, which is super exciting. And 27 of those kiddos will be served on an IEP with a big range. And that's what we're going to see in the next few years is our severity of special education. Not behavior, but big medical needs are coming up. And so how is that going to affect our preschool? Because we've never had big medical needs at the preschool. This is our first year we've had one. So how will we do that? You know, before we went to Paddock Lane and there was a nurse there. We have had a nurse. We hired her as a personal assistant this year. But with the medical needs coming up, we will have to look at that. Beth has been wonderful to work with in order to make sure that the needs of our students are met. So that's a great partnership that we know that our kiddos are being met. Last thing I want to share, thank you to the people that came to the video No Small Matters. It was a documentary on early childhood and quality programming in the state of Nebraska. I don't know, does anyone want to share what they got from that?
I think the thing that stuck out to me was the number of students. I can't remember the figure off the top of my head. It was the number of students from, or youth from 17 to 24 that were not qualified for the military. Just the national emergency that they talked about that is, because they're either physically or mentally incapable. I mean, that was wild to me, and that early ed is just so very important to create a workforce and to create, quality people to protect our nation. I mean, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what surprised me is the low pay of so many daycare providers, preschool providers. One of the comments that was made is that we pay more to have somebody take care of our dog than we do to take care of our kids. And I think that just, that was just a huge, I think I knew it, but to hear it said is kind of
Shocking.
eye-opening. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the quality care.
And the quality of care.
I think Beatrice has done a nice job with the preschool, but we need to continue to work and form partnerships with people for that quality care. We have teachers in our own district that are searching for childcare. And so we are taking steps. I'm excited to hopefully be able to come to you in about 2 months to say some of the fun things that we'll be able, hopefully, to do in our district to help make that a better place for all of our families and kids. So stay tuned. I got another trick up my sleeve. We'll see if it all works.
I do give a shout out to all the daycare providers who were also in attendance, because I think a lot of times people don't realize that they didn't just take care of their kids that day. They are going and getting additional training and they're improving their qualifications to take care of their kids.
Yeah, I would say there were 50 people maybe there at the screening. So that was a cool thing that everyone is there to continue to learn. So thanks for sharing, guys. And the other thing, Josh the Otter will be at preschool on Friday. Pretty big deal. Josh talks about Flow to Life, so they're coming down to read a story, to do a pledge verbally, and Josh the Otter will be there. So if you want to come on over. We're doing presentations at 9:30, 10:30, and 12:30 on Friday. And April 8th through the 12th is Wake Up Young Child that we will celebrate again at the preschool. Monday will be Music Monday, and so we're doing lots of music. Tasty Tuesday is on Tuesday, and we're going to have a family event that night. Artsy Thursday, we're going to have an outdoor craft show. And then Family Friday, we'll have a pit crew. So we're excited about all the things that we get to do with preschool. Any questions?
Yes, I'd like to put you on the spot, Missy.
Go.
Do you know, and I know this is one of, previous when we started the preschool program, the retention of schools, or of students from preschool on into kindergarten. Do you know what the percentage will be next year approximately?
Like
Or
how
do we
many of
know?
our kids?
How many of our kids are gonna go into kindergarten at Beatrice Public Schools?
I do have that number. I don't have it right here because we have tracked that this year, so we can make sure that our kiddos are signing up for kindergarten. I would say maybe 8 to 10 are not going to come to kindergarten in our kindergarten. Some of them are what we call redshirting, so they fall in that time that, you know what, I'm just not going to send my kid to school yet. I did that with my son. He's a July birthday. I'm like, he's just not ready. He probably was, but I wasn't ready for him to go, so he got to stick with me another year. Let's be honest. And some of them chose our preschool and then are gonna go to parochial schools. And then we've had some families that move and then are moving back to the district that they're in. They didn't wanna move their kids in the middle of the school year. But for the majority, we're keeping them.
We're not losing them to other districts.
And
as we
if
were
you
in the
look
past.
on the enrollment in, I smiled to myself, some of them are preschool and are coming to our kindergarten. So, I think our preschool has done a great job getting families and retaining families in our system. I could answer that, right? Any other questions?
Good question.
That was the purpose when we started.
1 million. I was stunned that you put your salary on there.
I know. I didn't want to share it with everyone, but just sign this paper when you leave, please. So that
It's not her salary, it's what she's worth.
Oh, thank you, yeah. So again, I offer you guys all to come out, come spend some time at preschool because you can't leave there without a smile on your face because it's even the most frustrating days. You get the unexpected hug behind your back of your leg or learning about geckos and how they shed their skin or,
Kids really are there, and you have to remember their biggest behaviors are just them trying to tell us that they need something. And so, I love my job every single day, and I think we have an amazing staff at the preschool who work so hard. We got 3 new students today. They work so hard, and I thank them for all of their endless work. So come join us someday and have some fun. You can come see Josh the Otter, I mean, that's a pretty cool thing.
I would just add a sincere thank you for all the work that you do as well with our staff and with our students, and appreciate the Monday phone calls from our friend in the preschool. I did learn today that geckos shed their skin like snakes, and I didn't know that, so that was good information. Josh the Otter,
Josh the Otter,
interesting.
I'm not gonna say this right, and I should have wrote it all down. A little guy, had an unfortunate event in a pool and drowned, and so his family did the organization, Josh the Otter organization. They contacted us and wanna get to as many young children as they can, and I think they thought maybe we had 20 kids. And I go, yeah, no, so they're gonna do 3 presentations and incorporating Southeast Community College to come down and work with us as well. They said you've collaborated with them before. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, bring him down, let's do this. Josh may need a helper at 9:30, like someone to be Josh, so if anyone wants to be Josh, let me know. At 9:30, you can be Josh. Steve?
He's gonna give up his coffee hour.
I'll make special coffee. We make really good coffee over the preschool. So, I'm gonna try to do a Facebook Live so we can get that information out to parents as well, because I think it is a cool thing. And if not, we'll just record it and put it on.
So you are gonna impact the parents?
We're gonna let them know that it's there if they wanna come, but I think spreading the message is huge. I haven't seen the presentation before. I'm sure it's absolutely amazing, but I just don't know what it's all about, so maybe we'll see.
Hopefully Josh the Otter does not literally have to float in.
We could right now.
The water we're supposed to be getting over the course of the next 4 days. So. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, guys.
All right, now's the time for notification of next meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be April 8th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the Administration Building. The Committee of the Whole meeting will be March 28th, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the Administration Building. An agenda for the meeting, which shall be kept continually current, is readily available for public inspection at the Superintendent's office during normal business hours. At this time, I would take a motion for adjournment.
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
I have a motion, second by Janet. Anyone have any comments before we, nothing? Can I have a vote, please?